So we are on to our next Easy Food Bank meal. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly share this on my page, because then I get to see your comments, and just in case anybody asks any questions, I'll be able to do something about it. So I am trying to do a series on food bank meals, the kind of stuff that you get in a food bag, your average food bag. What can you do with it? And somebody asked me a question a couple of weeks ago actually now, and their question was, what do you do with tin sausages, frankfurter type sausages, other than put it in bread with ketchup? And so I thought, okay, that's a really good challenge. Let's see what we can do. And then I thought, well, actually there's a meal I do for my kids on a quick and easy basis. You know, you've run out of time, you don't have your chicken nuggets in the freezer. What can we do that's going to be 15 minutes max and we can get on? I'm going to show you tonight. So all you will need for your meal is some tins of sausages. I've pre-opened mine and drained them only because it's easier for doing it on TV. I've got an onion that I've chopped up. I've got some chopped tomatoes. If you have a jar, you could use a jar. I'm planning to put some sweet corn inside. I've got some carrots to have on the side with the meal. I've chopped up most of them. I'll just do my last one. And some boiling water, a bit of olive oil, and your frozen herbs and so on if you've got them. So we're going to get cracking, and you can see how quick and easy this meal really is. So I've got my hot water ready boiling on here because I thought it would just be easier to get that done right now. So the first thing I do with my boiling water is I add some salt. Probably more than you'd imagine is needed for some water, but I've got a lot of water. Adding my salt, I'm going to add some olive oil to the top. Now when you put pasta in, you do not want to put pasta in warm water and heat it up with the pasta. Blah, your pasta will go soggy. So what you want to do is get it to the boil, like this one is. Open up your pasta once you've added your salt and your olive oil. What's the olive oil for? When you pour your pasta in after your olive oil, it stops it sticking together. There is nothing worse than clumpy pasta. So there you go. For 8 of us, I'm doing one bag and a bit. There's 8 in my household. You'll have to work it out for yours. They reckon about 100 grams per person of pasta is about right. Unless you have massive eaters. Smaller eaters would maybe have 75 grams. But since they come in 500 grams, you can roughly portion, chop it into 5, and you know you've got 500 portions, as it were. So one bag for 5 people. I've done kind of 1 and almost half, which wouldn't be enough for 8 adults, but we're 4 kids and 4 adults, so in theory that should be fine. I personally love my wooden spoons, but not everyone likes cooking with a wooden spoon. Give it a bit of a stir, whack your lid on, and that can just simmer away while you're waiting. Don't forget though, check your time. Never get your pasta on without checking. I should have maybe done this before. How long it should be on there for. 8 minutes. Right, that's my challenge. I've got 8 minutes to get this meal ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a frying pan on the heat. Whack in a little bit of olive oil, and then you want to, as soon as that starts picking up some heat, get your onion on there. Now I've pre-chopped mine just to save time. I've chopped mine pretty small, little pieces, just diced. But if your kids love onions, you can cut them in slithers and slices. They'll be there in the meal though. So if you kind of want to hide them, chop them up small. Get your pan nice and warm, get your onions in there, and they'll start to sizzle away very soon. Just mix them around in the oil. I like to use olive oil in my cooking, but you could use either. I like the flavour of olive oil, and I like that it's just a wee bit healthier, although it depends on how much you use obviously. So get your onions going on there, and then the next thing you want to do is start thinking about flavour. So I would whack in a bunch of salt into this one, whole load of pepper, which is over here. This is my pepper girl. I like a lot of pepper in my cooking. Not everyone does. You've just got to kind of do it to taste. So that's pepper in there. Keep mixing it around a little bit. And then for this bit bulk of your sauce, but you want to get your sausages in there. Now, as I said, I did them earlier on, opened them earlier on and just drained the water out. You don't need the water. So what I'm going to do with my sausages, I hope you can see from there, is just chop them up into small little pieces, like so. So I'm just doing a few at a time so that they don't go everywhere. Gosh, chopping on live TV, that's interesting. Don't cut yourself, Christina. And if I weren't talking to you, this would be the moment when I'm chopping and all I have to do is think chop, 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 chop. This is the moment I would start praying for my family. We talked about that the first time around. Now, you might not be a believer and you're watching this, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to follow that side of my cooking side of things. But you know what? There's a lot of worse things you can do in life than bless your kids. There's a real power in blessing. And in fact, the Bible says, I've set before you life and death and blessings and cursings, so you can choose. So choose life so that you and your kids will prosper, will be blessed. So I always bless my kids. I bless everything I can think of for them. I bless their friendships, I bless their schoolwork, I bless them with peace, especially if they've ever been through anything, any kind of trauma or anything like that. That's why you want to pray and ask Jesus to be healing their hearts. There's a beautiful verse in the Psalms, and it's Psalm 23, and it talks about how the Lord restores my soul. I love that idea, that your soul, we know it, it can get hurt, it can get battered and bruised and all that kind of thing, and yet He is the one who can restore it. And I always think for my kids, if there's been any hurt I've caused, let alone anyone else, any damage, any pain, I want Him to restore their souls. Kind of like if you've got a jar, like a jug of drink, and throughout the day it gets sloshed around and half emptied, and it's not as full as it could be. And that's where we need Him to top them up, and Him to just give them that bit of peace. So I pray for my kids when I'm doing stuff like this. I pray for my husband. I pray for my dog. Literally, I pray for my house, that it will be peaceful and blessed. If you're like me and you love having music on in the background, I love getting worship on. If you tap into YouTube, worship music, there's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours worth of worship music on YouTube, and you can just have it playing in the background and just, you know, fill your house with God's peace as you're going. So my onions are looking lovely. I hope you can see there, they're starting to brown a little bit. I wish I could waft the flavour into your house while I'm doing this. They smell amazing. This is bubbling away. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir, make sure none of that pasta is sticking to itself. And then this is where we get inventive. So you could, if you're given a bolognese type jar in your food bag, chuck in one of the, I mean, depending on how many of you there are, I would say 1 jar for 4 people, 2 jars for 8 people. If you like it very saucy, 2 jars for 6 people, something like that. But you could chuck in a jar and most of your flavour's there, and you then only need to tweak it. But what I wanted to do today is show you what to do with chopped tomatoes, because you'd be surprised how few people know. So quick and easy, chuck a jar in. If you don't have a jar, but you do have chopped tomatoes, this is what you can do. Again, proportionate for your family. So I've got 8 people in my household. So I'm going to chuck in 2 tins of chopped tomatoes. That's 1. Here's my other, and I'm chucking it straight into my frying pan where I was cooking my onions, because then you get all the flavour off the bottom of the pan where the onions were cooking. So there you go, that's 2 tins in there, and that, starting to smell lovely. Quick and easy. How am I doing for time? I've got just a few minutes left. So this is where I whack in all that yummy sausage that I've chopped up small. I hope you can see that on there. It's a little bit too risky to try and tip it. Let me see if I can do it like this. So that is my small chopped sausages, just like that. Chuck them in there like that. Fantastic. Get that's all mixed in. Now this is how your sausages, remember they're pre-cooked because you can have them just in bread, can't you? But this is how you can heat them up nice and warm in your sauce. The flavour from in them goes into your sauce as well. I'm also doing a tin of sweet corn, which you can do depending on how much they're swimming in juice and all. This one barely had any juice, and actually I drained it because I just thought it'd be quick and easy while everyone's watching to be able to do that. So chuck in your sweet corn. Now, this is where you get to be a little bit inventive, because you see, you know your family and you know your level of need. If you're a family that's been given a food bag to last you a week, you're not going to want to chuck in all your tins of vegetables in one meal. If you have a little bit more in your food cupboard, you don't have to just stick to sweet corn. You could chuck in some mushrooms as well, tin mushrooms. You could chuck in some tin peas, drain the water, whack it in, mix it round. It'll taste lovely. But again, if your cupboard is really limited and you're thinking, what can I feed that's a good, nutritious meal for my kids with what I've got, you can see this is so easy. Chopped tomatoes, tin of frankfurter sausages, tin of sweet corn. Most people are given that kind of stuff with their food bank bag. You know, we don't run a food bank per se, but we run an unofficial thing where people can come and collect a food bag if they want to once a week. And we try and gauge it for a family, how many meals you're going to need for a week. But again, as I said, not everyone knows what to do with it. So I wanted to help. Now, remember what I said the other day about ingredients for your cupboard. When you go to Aldi next, look at their spices. They're not expensive. Most of them are less than £1. So treat yourself maybe to one each time that you go and just build up a little cupboard full of them. This one is garlic granules. I've just decanted them into a huge thing because I like my garlic granules and I use it in pretty much everything. So that one's garlic granules. And I'm going to get that in there. I've already put my salt and my pepper on the onions, remember? I think what I will want to do next is add my herbs. Now, you might be thinking, well, I haven't got any herbs in my cupboard, Christina. If you haven't got any herbs, tiny bit of vinegar or lemon if you've got it, or if you haven't got either of those, most people have ketchup. Add some ketchup in this and it will taste good. But if you do have some herbs, if you've managed to collect some from the wall and put them in your freezer like I suggested, I'm going to go get my basil. I'll show you what you can do with it. So I keep it in the freezer, totally frozen. I crunch it up so it's in tiny little pieces and then whack it in. Now I love cooking with fresh herbs. So the idea that you can have them for free and freeze them and then use them fresh, this smells incredible. So that's my fresh herbs going into here. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, this is really similar to the other day. Well, it kind of is. And the principles, once you've got those basic principles, you can kind of transfer them across to anything and you'll get a different flavor, different meal, but you're following the same principles. Right, it is time for my pasta to come off. So I'm just going to have to go out of shot for a second just to drain it. I use a colander, whack it in the sink, drain it all off, and then once I'm done, give it a shake. Sorry you can't see me, I just couldn't get it round to my sink at the same time as my cooking. So once I've drained it, I then tip it back into my pan, and there it is, ready to add the rest to in just a moment. So I'm just going to put this here to one side for a second. I have been going for 8 minutes and I am almost completely ready. So now we get to the truth of the matter. What does it taste like? Well, I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar to mine. If you have vinegar, great. If you don't have vinegar, some lemon will do. Like I said before, but even so, if you haven't got either of those, tiny bit of ketchup. That will give it that slightly vinegary taste. Or brown sauce if you've got brown sauce. Brown sauce is pretty great to hide in cooking and it gives the flavour. So let's give that a little bit of a stir, have a little bit of a taste and see how it is. That's tasting lovely. Very Italian with all my basil. Now, if you're going to treat yourself to some herbs at Aldi, you want to get yourself first garlic granules. But if you were to get 2 this week, the other one I'd suggest you get is mixed herbs, because you can whack just a little bit of mixed herbs in there, and then that, I think, will make it basically perfect. So let's see how this is tasting. I've got that all stirred around. I'm not sure if you can see that from where you're looking, but that's how it's looking at the moment. Honestly, looks and smells incredible from my point of view. Let me have a quick taste. That is gorgeous. So all you need to do now is get your pasta down. Woo! You need asbestos hands when you cook, don't you? Whack that in there, like so. So that's all on the top there. We put this on the side, mix it round, like so. And there I have a 1-pot pasta using frankfurter sausages. Who would have known? All ready to go in my pot. Let me just pick this up, it's a little bit hot, and show you what it's like. There you go, that's my meal, all done. Took me from start to finish 10 minutes. How about that? So that is really quick and simple, and the only last thing that's back here is my carrot, and I'm going to show you how I chop carrots just to make it a little bit more interesting than the slice that you can do with carrots. I'll pop the lid on this to keep it warm. I tend to chop it at an angle. I hope you can see me here. I think I'll leave a long one just in case. So I tend to chop it at an angle. So what I do is I get my thing, put my knife at an angle, and chop, turn it, chop, turn my carrot, chop, turn my carrot, chop, turn my carrot, and what you end up getting is large, juicy chunks of carrot that you can boil with a bit of water and a bit of salt. I should have put this on before, except that I didn't want the kettle to be too noisy next to the recording, so I'm going to put these on in a moment. And then I've got my pasta dish with carrots next to it, ready to go for my kids. We will be eating in about 5 minutes time. So there you go, there's my vegetables, all done for today. So I'm going to pray for you and then bless you to go and enjoy your meal, and we're going to go and enjoy ours. So Lord Jesus, I want to ask that you bless every single home that is watching this, every single home that gets to join in and see how to make easy food bag meals. I ask that you'd bless them with peace, that regardless of how tight things are at the moment, the reason they have a food bag in the first place, I ask that you'd give them a joy and a happiness and a thankfulness in their hearts. And I want to pray, Jesus, that this time where things are lean and they're leaning on a food bank would be short, and I ask that you would be an amazing provider for them, in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. God bless you all. I'll be back again with some more simple, easy food bag ideas. See you soon. Bye.